Your to-do list is a lie. Why it triggers your brain's shame cycle. Your to-do list isn't making you productive, it's training your brain to procrastinate. Every unchecked box whispers, "You're behind," and that triggers stress, avoidance, and shame. That heaviness you feel, it's not laziness, it's your nervous system hitting the brakes. In this video, I'll show you why traditional lists backfire, psychology, not pep talk, and replace them with the anti-list rule that builds focus and momentum fast. You'll learn the secret step that makes starting effortless, and the common mistake that ruins everything. By the end, you'll have a simple, strict system that breaks the shame cycle and delivers one high-value win every day. The problem: why your list feels heavy. Let's start with what you already feel. The longer the list, the heavier your chest. That's the endless list effect. A visible backlog creates invisible pressure. Your brain reads line after line as open loops, and each one quietly claims a slice of your attention. You're not just thinking about the top task, you're juggling everything at once. Now here's where most people mess up. They look at unchecked tasks and think, "I'm failing." That's perceived failure. A list is supposed to be neutral, but it rarely is. Every empty box becomes a micro-signal that you're behind schedule, even when your day was full of actual progress. And the moment your brain labels behind, it tilts you toward avoidance to get short-term relief. This clicked for me when I realized how fragmented attention steals momentum. Lists encourage rapid item switching, email, proposal, message, doc, so your working memory keeps rebooting. The cost isn't just time, it's cognitive load. Each switch forces you to rebuild context, remember where you left off, and decide again what matters. Do that 10 times, and you're mentally drained before any deep work happens. The thing most people miss is the absence of real completion. You might check 5 minor items, but the big one, the one you care about, still stares back. No sense of closure means no dopamine hit strong enough to reinforce the behavior. You finish the day busy, but not finished. That gap fuels the "I never do enough" story, which makes starting tomorrow harder. Another source of friction: miscalibrated expectations. Planning fantasy lives on lists. We write down the ideal day version of us: high energy, no interruptions, perfect clarity. Then reality shows up with meetings, surprises, and normal human limits. When your plan ignores time, energy, and friction, of course you fall short. And every miss feeds the narrative that discipline is the problem, when calibration is. Let me show you exactly how small details add up. You write report. That's not a task, it's a project with ambiguous edges. Your brain sees uncertainty and delays the start to avoid the discomfort of not knowing where to begin. So you pick off easy items for relief. They feel good for a minute, but they don't reduce the weight. By afternoon, you're depleted, and the real work remains untouched. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches: reduce ambiguity before you ask for effort. Lists usually ignore start triggers and done definitions. Without those, you're relying on willpower to fight through fog. Willpower is a terrible primary tool. It's inconsistent and burns fast. Clarity, on the other hand, cuts the activation energy so you can begin without a debate in your head. And there's a social layer to this. Many of us use lists to signal responsibility to ourselves or to others. But when everything sits there with equal weight, reply to a Slack and draft a strategy doc, it tricks your brain. Equal weight bias means trivial and critical look the same. If they look the same, you'll choose the one that feels safer. Safety beats significance in the moment, every time. Okay, so the tricky part is that your brain is doing its job. It's trying to protect you from uncertainty, from the possibility of failure, from social evaluation if something important isn't good enough yet. So the standard advice: try harder, add more, color-code it, just increases the threat. More items, more reminders, more alarms equals more pressure. More pressure equals more avoidance. You know that cycle already. A quick micro story. Last week, a student sent me a screenshot: 42 items, 7 overdue badges, 3 priorities labeled urgent. She spent 2 hours organizing and 0 minutes on the one proposal that mattered. We stripped the list, picked one keystone with a clear start, and defined done as draft intro and outline, 45 minutes. She finished it that day. The difference? Less noise, more definition. If you remember nothing else, remember this: a list without context multiplies decisions. Every decision creates friction. Friction kills follow-through. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer decisions between you and starting. Once you nail that, everything else clicks. So no, it's not laziness. It's a system that overloads working memory, blurs priorities, and erases closure. Your brain responds by delaying, not because you're weak, but because the setup is hostile to focus. That's the real problem. And that's why we're going to replace the list, not polish it. The brain's threat response to lists. Before we continue, you need to understand why your body reacts to a list like it's danger. Long lists pack 3 triggers your brain hates: uncertainty, ambiguity, and the chance of social evaluation. Uncertainty is, how long will this take? Ambiguity is, what does this even mean? Social evaluation is, if I mess this up, people will notice. Put those together, and your amygdala lights up like a smoke alarm. That alarm pushes stress hormones, your heart rate ticks up, and your system quietly shifts toward freeze or avoid. That heaviness? It's biology, not character. Now here's where most people mess up. They fight biology with willpower. The more your threat system fires, the less access you have to your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, prioritizes, and regulates impulses. So when you stare at a list that screams too much and not clear, your rational brain gets quieter right when you need it most. You feel foggy, indecisive, and pulled toward quick relief. That's not weakness. That's a protective reflex. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. You scan your list, hit a vague item like finish deck, and your mind flashes all the unknowns: which slides, what data, whose feedback, how polished. Your amygdala reads those unknowns as potential threats because unknowns in the past sometimes led to criticism, rework, or embarrassment. So your brain offers an escape: check email, tidy the desk, open a new tab. Those choices reduce discomfort right now, so they get reinforced. The loop strengthens. The thing most people miss is that avoidance can keep the threat response alive. Even when you successfully dodge the uncomfortable task, your brain still treats the cue, seeing finished deck, as dangerous. So the next time you glance at it, the alarm fires again. That's why you can feel a wave of dread just reading a task title. And every micro-avoidance teaches your system, good call, we escaped, which cements the habit. Okay, so the tricky part is that task aversion often beats imagined payoff. You know the deck needs to be done, and you know the reward later: praise, progress, relief. But the discomfort of starting is immediate and certain. Your emotional brain discounts the future and overweights the present. That's not poor values. That's how we're wired when stress is up. So the advice to think about the outcome usually isn't enough if the start still feels threatening. Working memory takes another hit here. A long list is a pile of open loops. Your brain tries to keep tabs on them because loose ends matter. But load it with too many loops and performance drops. You lose the ability to hold the steps for the current task, and you start bouncing. Each bounce asks your brain to rebuild context, which burns energy and raises friction. More friction means more threat, and the spiral tightens. This clicked for a client when we measured their mornings. 10 minutes just to choose a starting point, then 5 minutes to reopen the right files, then 3 minutes to remember the next step. That's 18 minutes of activation pain before any real work. No wonder the coffee walk wins. The reason this works against you is simple. Your brain mistakes activation pain for danger. It treats hard to start as unsafe to start. The game changer nobody talks about is perceived control. When you have a clear start trigger, a small first move, and a defined end, your threat system relaxes. Control signals safety. In lab settings, even the sense of being able to influence an aversive outcome lowers threat responding. In practice, that means open doc, write a rough bullet list for slide 1-3, stop after 20 minutes feels safer than finish deck. Same project, different threat profile. Now here's where most people mess up again. They add alarms, priority tags, and color codes thinking it'll motivate them. It usually amplifies threat salience. More red badges, more urgency labels, more time pressure language. Your brain reads that as, if you fail, the cost is high, which pushes you back into freeze or frantic busy work. Frantic doesn't equal focused. It's still avoidance, just louder. If you remember nothing else, remember this: your nervous system is optimizing for safety first, productivity second. A traditional list is a wall of uncertainty and possible judgment. So your body says, not now, even when your mind says it matters. You can't bully that system with grit alone. You have to lower threat. So what lowers threat? Clarity lowers threat. Smaller scope lowers threat. Visible progress lowers threat. A single, predicted starting action lowers threat. A short time box lowers threat. And the fastest way to stack those elements is to stop presenting your brain with a backlog and start presenting it with one winnable, clearly defined target. That's exactly what the anti-list rule is built to do. Once you flip the threat signal into a competence signal, avoidance drops, focus returns, and starting finally feels doable. The shame cycle mechanism. Now let's name the loop you've felt 1,000 times. You miss a task. That miss stings, so you judge yourself. The judgment raises your stress, so you avoid the next hard thing. Avoidance creates a bigger miss. And the cycle tightens. It's not dramatic, it's quiet and mechanical. Miss right arrow self-judgment, right arrow avoidance, right arrow bigger miss. Run that daily, and your list becomes a scoreboard of not enough. Here's the subtle part most people miss. After a miss, your brain updates its predictions. It starts whispering, "I won't finish anyway." That's a negative prediction loop. Your future self gets framed as unreliable, so starting feels pointless. Why invest effort in a bet your brain expects to lose? That expectation isn't moral failure. It's learned from repeated mismatches between fantasy plans and real execution. The more you miss, the more the prediction hardens. This clicked for me when a client said, "I plan on Monday. By Wednesday, I'm hiding from my plan." That's identity damage creeping in. Instead of "I missed a plan," it mutates into "I am unreliable." Identity-level labels glue behavior in place. When you believe you're the kind of person who drops balls, you'll avoid situations that might prove you wrong or right. Either way, avoidance feels safer than testing the belief. Okay, so the tricky part is the short-term relief. After self-judgment spikes, your nervous system wants out. Scrolling, cleaning, inbox zero, tweaking settings, those give immediate relief without the risk of failing the important thing. They're productive procrastination because they mimic momentum. Your brain learns, when shame rises, do this, and the relief becomes the reward. That's why the loop persists even when you intellectually know it's hurting you. Let me show you exactly how the loop compounds. Day 1, you plan 6 items, do 3, miss the keystone. Your self-talk shifts from tough day to I dropped it again. Day 2, with that prediction running, you start later, pick easier tasks, and quietly lower the bar. You still feel behind, so the self-judgment stays. Day 3, dread shows up earlier because your brain anticipates pain. You escape sooner. By Friday, you've taught your system that the list equals threat and that avoidance equals safety. The list didn't just fail, it trained the cycle. The thing most people miss is that shame pretends to be discipline. It sounds like, be harder on yourself so you won't miss again. But shame narrows attention to self-protection, not problem-solving. Under shame, you don't ask, what's the smallest step? You ask, how do I avoid feeling this? That question has one reliable answer: don't start. So the very emotion you think will push you forward quietly glues you to the chair. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches: separate behavior from identity in real time. Instead of I am unreliable, switch to the plan was miscalibrated, or I didn't define the start. That reframes the miss as a system issue, which your brain can fix instead of a character flaw, which it can only hide from. And yes, the words matter. They change what your nervous system expects next. Now you might be thinking, but I need pressure to perform. Pressure can spark action, but shame erodes capacity. Pressure with clarity and a small scope can work. Pressure without clarity drags you into rumination. The reason this matters is simple. Rumination is time you could have spent on a microaction that rebuilds trust in yourself. Trust isn't built by thinking, it's built by finishing something that counts. Micro story: a designer I coach kept missing finish homepage. The miss led to late nights of catch-up, then more misses. We flipped it to draft hero copy and wireframe first section, 30 minutes. He finished it before lunch. His debrief line was perfect. I didn't need motivation. I needed a smaller promise I could actually keep. That kept him out of the shame spiral for the rest of the week. If you remember nothing else, remember this: the shame cycle is a prediction machine. It expects failure, so it steers you toward avoidance that confirms the expectation. Your escape isn't more willpower, it's engineering small, winnable promises that produce visible proof. Proof updates predictions. Predictions drive behavior. Break the loop at the proof stage, and your identity follows. And that's the doorway to the anti-list, one high-value win that resets what you believe you can do today. The hidden lie: lists pretend to be plans. Here's the trap most people don't see. A list looks like a plan, but it behaves like a wish inventory. Write report, call Sam, update CRM, workout feels organized, but none of that tells you when, how long, or what done means. Your brain sees nouns and hopes action will follow. Hope isn't a plan. A plan accounts for time, energy, and friction. A list ignores all three. Time is calendar reality. Energy is your actual capacity, cognitive and physical. At 11 a.m. versus 4 p.m., friction is everything that makes starting harder. Missing files, unclear steps, people you need input from. When those aren't specified, your brain hits ambiguity, flags it as risky, and delays. The delay isn't disobedience, it's a response to missing data. The thing most people miss is equal weight bias. On a list, reply to Slack and draft proposal look identical. Your brain chooses the one with lower uncertainty and faster payoff. That's why you clear the small stuff first and never reach the work that matters. The interface fooled you. Equal font, equal bullets, equal anxiety, so you pick easy. Easy rewards now, important pays later. Under stress, later loses. Now you might be thinking, but I prioritize. Sure, you might drag items higher or add a star. That's still not a plan. Priority markers don't reduce friction. They don't define where to begin or when to stop. They don't secure a time slot. They don't say who you need, which file to open, or what good enough looks like. They're labels on boxes with no contents. Let me show you exactly how the illusion breaks. Finished deck lives on your list. That's a project with multiple steps. Gather data, outline argument, draft slides, get feedback, revise. A plan would chunk one step, schedule it on your calendar, set a start trigger, open deck, outline 3 headlines, and define done, 3 headlines drafted. A list dumps the entire project into your mental lap and says, figure it out. That's not planning. That's outsourcing executive function to a tired future you. A real plan also has a start trigger. Lists don't. Without a trigger, time, place, cue, and first action, you're depending on a moment of motivation to align with a moment of opportunity. That alignment is rare. When it misses, you think discipline failed. Actually, the system never gave your brain a clean path to begin. Give it a trigger like 9:30, desk, headphones on, open doc, and you reduce the activation energy to almost nothing. Another lie, lists claim to show progress. Crossing off 5 trivial items does produce a little satisfaction. But if the keystone remains, the real signal your brain gets is not done, and that dominates your mood. A plan creates closure by defining a binary finish line for today's slice. Done when the intro is drafted beats work on report. Closure drives motivation. Vague efforts don't. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches. Separate capture from commitment. Use a capture tool to hold ideas and obligations, but don't let that backlog pose as your daily plan. Each day, pull one keystone from capture, convert it into a plan with time, trigger, scope, and done definition, and then ignore the rest. That's not denial, it's design. You're trading fantasy control for real control. Okay, so the tricky part is miscalibrated expectations. Lists invite you to write your ideal self's workload. 8 big tasks, 0 interruptions, unlimited focus. A plan forces you to pick what fits the actual day. That constraint feels smaller, but it's what unlocks follow-through. When your plan matches reality, your brain gets the win it needs to trust the next plan. Micro story. A founder I coach kept a rolling list of 60 items. Every day ended with 10 new ads, 2 checks, and a sinking feeling. We moved to planning one keystone with a 60-minute block and a clear done. 2 weeks later, revenue tasks were finally finishing. His line to me, I didn't need a bigger list, I needed a smaller promise and a place to keep it. If you remember nothing else, remember this. A list is inventory, a plan is a commitment. Inventory overwhelms. Commitment narrows. Narrowing removes decisions, reduces threat, and lets competence show up. Once you strip the illusion, you can design something better, the anti-list. That gives your brain one winnable target instead of a wall of wishes. And that's where we're headed next. Competence-driven motivation, the core reframe. Now that we've stripped the list illusion, here's the reframe that flips your motivation on. Motivation follows competence, not the other way around. When your brain sees itself succeed, clearly, quickly, and on something that matters, it generates energy to do more. When it sees fuzz, misses, and half-finished efforts, it pulls the plug. Why does this matter? Because most people wait to feel motivated and then attempt something big. That's backwards. The thing most people miss is that motivation is the byproduct of a recent, meaningful win. No win, no fuel. Small, visible wins compound into self-belief, and self-belief changes how hard, how long, and how courageously you act. That's competence-driven motivation. Let me show you exactly what competence signals look like. They're concrete, close, and consequential. Concrete means you can point to an output: 3 slides outlined, 1 reach-out sent, 1 draft paragraph written. Close means the feedback arrives today, not in a month. Consequential means it ties to a real goal: revenue, delivery, learning, health. Check all 3, and your brain labels the effort worth it. Here's the shortcut nobody teaches.